So the tying run is at second. The run that would win the World Series is at first, and Joe Carter is the batter. Now the 2-2.
Well hit down the left field line. Way back. Gone! Touch 'em all, Rushmore. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life.
Welcome back to the Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top four and nothing more. Man, it is week 2 of Around the Horn April. Week 1 was so awesome. We did baseball franchises, and we got a little flack on a few of those. It was really awesome. We had 9 franchises that we were able to talk about, and only one Rushmore, my team, the Yankees. But if you haven't checked that out, go back and check that episode. We dropped in our top infielders. We're building up the lineup for our baseball super team, our Rushmore super team. Now, hey, Andy, it's Around the Horn April. It's baseball. I mean, the sun is out, the pollen is going. It's sunny and bright. How are you feeling about another baseball episode?
I'm feeling fantastic. No, I look, it's no surprise I'm not as huge of a baseball fan, although I do appreciate it. It is a lot of fun to watch and really ultimately to talk about. That's my favorite thing to do. So, hey, I'm repping the Angels here because that's my team. If you watched last week's episode, you'll notice that we talked about our franchises, and that was my number one. That was my George. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun to talk about.
Awesome. Well, look, man, we have a special guest on like we've been doing the last few weeks. My good buddy Thomas is on. I'm rocking the Braves for him. That's his team. They won the World Series this year. And like I said, if you watch episode 1 of Around the Horn, you know that it was on my mountain. And man, Thomas, tell me about your fandom. How are you a fan of baseball? Did you play? Why would we have you on a baseball episode?
Man, I grew up watching baseball with my dad and just always been a Braves fan growing up. I was able to go to some games, and it just kind of always motivated me to play. And I played since I was like 4 years old, man, all the way up until I graduated high school. So just something I thoroughly enjoy, and just have good conversations with people about baseball.
Man, I met Thomas through work and ministry, and he's come on to work with me over at Frontline. And man, we've had so many conversations, whether it's LSU in Tennessee or it's the Yankees and the Braves and all kinds of sports in between. So I knew I wanted to have Thomas on for this episode. And namely, if nobody knew out there, Thomas Jefferson's birthday is today. Happy
birthday, TJ.
And look, since it's Thomas's birthday, I figured we'd have a Thomas on. Thomas, real quick, put you on the spot. Who's your Rushmore of Tommies?
All right, number 1, it has to be Thomas the Train. It has to be. Growing up, watched Thomas the Train. Always watched him. He's like iconic. Everyone knows. All right,
so your George is Thomas the Train. Who's your link?
Then you have people like Thomas Edison, who's like considered the greatest inventor of all time. There's Tom and Jerry, which is, everyone knows Tom and Jerry.
Okay, so look, there's only one Tom left. So who's your last one? Your Rosie. Who's your Rosie? Is it Tom Brady? Is it Tom Glavine? Is it Tom Morello?
Nope.
Is it you? Who is it?
It's not me. That's a little pompous, and I'm not that pompous. All right. It's actually somebody that really probably no one has ever heard of. I like reading up on history and things like that. And there was a kid that was 14 years old during the Revolutionary War. He actually became a captive. He died when he was 91. His name is Thomas Hill. He fought in Bunker Hill. And so it's just kind of cool. Like, he fought alongside of his parents and things like that. So as a 14-year-old, I think, man, at 14, I'm like playing video games. This dude's fighting a revolutionary war. It's kind of cool to think about.
So
That's
Thomas, you just gave us a history lesson, man. At least the viewers today have gotten more than they bargained for. So it's already off to a great start.
Here we go. So, man, that's awesome. Thomas Hill at Bunker Hill. That's better than Tyreek Hill because he's done gone. But that's a whole nother nother Rushmore show. Hey, so look, today's Rushmore we're gonna announce is Unbreakable Records.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and get into our Rushmore of MLB Unbreakable Records. Kirk, you're going to go ahead and start us with your Rosie. But before you do that, let everybody know, how did you pick? What is your criteria? What did you think about when you were thinking about these records?
Let me tell you, there are about there's no shortage of about 15 to 20 different websites. When you just type in Unbreakable, records from all sports come up. You simplify it down to baseball, and it has literally probably about 50 to 100. There were some that immediately popped to my head because I actually watched them happen. And then there were some that, as I started kind of doing some research of guys from old and past, that I was like, that is insane, and that won't even be touched. I did have a few that I kind of crossed off because I knew the other panel of people on here, Thomas and Andruw, that you guys would have some similar. And there are so many that I wanted to make sure that I had 4 that would honor these guys. And so right off the bat, we talked about him last week, the Ryan Express, Nolan Ryan. Now look, Nolan Ryan has 3 or 4 different ones of Unbreakable Records, but number 1 for me, which I think is just insane, and I actually watched the last one happen, was the most career no-hitters with 7. This record was set between 66 and 93. If you know anything about Ryan, he pitched forever. I saw him pitch with the Rangers. Here's the crazy part. The next closest to him is one player, Sandy Koufax, who had 4. And then there are 4 players, to include Cy Young, who has 700 other records, that have 3. And only Verlander, Justin Verlander, is the active one. So in all of the 26 pitchers to have thrown 2, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 of them are active. So here's the deal. In order to do this, you have to have longevity. You have to be really good. You have to not get hurt. Ryan was really awesome about not getting hurt. And listen to this. This is a crazy stat. Between 2000 and 2009, only 20 no-hitters were thrown. 19 of them were solo no-hitters. 1 was a combined. The following decade saw the number of no-hitters double to 40. And the idea that 7 of those would be by one person, I think, is just impossible to break. Now, with that is his other record, which shows his longevity and how awesome, would be the 5,714 strikeouts he had. I don't think anybody will touch that one either. But if you're throwing 5,714 strikeouts, that's a good way to get 7 no-nos. So that's going to be my Rosie, my first, right out the gate, pitching stat. Watched him pitch, watched him put a bunch of hits on Robin Ventura. And if you want to see that video, go back and check out last week. But my Rosie, number 4, Nolan Ryan, 7 no-hitters. All right, Andy. So I'm done with my Rosie. It's your turn. What is your criteria of what allowed you to go into this deep list of Unbreakable records, and how did you pick them? Tell us who your Rosie is.
Yeah, so my criteria, very simple. I'm not a big expert on the topic, but I know Google is. So I went and Googled.
You didn't pick Yahoo!
I didn't DuckDuckGo it. I didn't Bing. No, I just went straight Google, straight to the source. And what I wanted to do is because I knew you guys were going to have like all these records that are, I mean, obviously unbreakable, right? We talk about Nolan Ryan, we talk all the other guys, records we're going to talk about are definitely deserving of the list. But I wanted to kind of give some ones that maybe a little off the beaten path, right? We don't always talk about these ones. And maybe it's because the guy really didn't go down in history as much, but he has this record, right? He has this one really cool thing. And you guys can totally disagree with me and tell me why it would be breakable, but I just thought these were pretty impressive. So with that being said, my number 4 on my MLB Unbreakable Records Rushmore comes from a guy named Rickey. Rickey was a pitcher for the Boston Red Sox.
Who's Rickey Cleveland?
Right, Rickey Cleveland. Now follow me here, okay? Now, if this is wrong, it's because the internet lied to me, okay? But I'm
all right. Here we go.
Anyway. Rickey Cleveland, 1976, plays for the Boston Red Sox. Okay, this guy didn't just pitch like every now and then. Like he was a legit pitcher for them, at least this season. He allowed only three home runs the entire season. Home runs the entire season, right? Okay. And I just find that to be unbreakable. I mean, watch
how many innings did you pitch? Did you know? Does it say?
I tried to find all of that stuff, but he in looking at his stats and everything, like he seems to have pitched pretty good amount. But anyway, 3 home runs. To only allow 3 home runs, man, there's guys who wake up in the MLB right now already giving up 3 home runs, right? They wake up, they show
the
up
Yankees,
to the stadium.
The Yankees got old boy from you guys at the Angels last year, and he threw 3 an inning.
Yeah, right.
That guy threw 3 an inning.
But I also think about like where the game is now and the emphasis.
He did.
The emphasis on the home run and power hitting and everything that's happening, the steroid era.
Launch angle.
They're just, everything is about the home run and the big hits and whatever. But for somebody pitching to only give up 3 home runs a season is pretty impressive. And I don't know, cool. Like I'm not a big baseball guy, but that just seems like something that in today's game probably
now I'm assuming he's a starter and I'm assuming he pitched the max amount of innings, which is usually like 150 or 200. And if that's the case, that's pretty nuts. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Man, that's a cool record. And I love his name. I was really hoping he pitched for the Cleveland Indians. I was like, Rickey Cleveland for the Indians. That would have been cool. All right. Rosie, our guest today, Thomas, man. Rosie's our number 4 on the mountain because we consider him at kind of the bottom. It's usually the hardest one to pick because you're telling everybody else you don't deserve to be there. Who is your Rosie and how did you pick your mountain?
Well, one of my guys on here is pretty much based off of because I'm a fan of him. And it's pretty much like based off of, I don't think another pitcher will do this. And this is my number 4. It's Greg Maddux's 18 Gold Gloves. I don't think that's ever going to be touched by another pitcher. I think that the most right now, and it's active, is Zach Greinke, I think, and he has 6. I'm pretty sure.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's Greinke. He has 6.
The boggling part about this, and there were a couple of them like this, like All-Star games, I think is Hank Aaron. That's a pretty crazy record.
Yeah.
But in order to do this, you have to be good for 18 years.
Here's the thing about Greg Maddux. He went on a 13-year streak of winning the Gold Glove every year. That's just madly impressive to me.
Yeah, and not only was he a great defensive guy, he was great painting the corners. There were some other records. We talked in the lobby the other day about some of the amazing things that Greg Maddux did. Like he threw like a 72 pitch per complete game, which is, I'm probably off by a pitch or two, but that's just sick. I mean, he was just a great pitcher, and he only threw like 80 miles an hour. He wasn't like this lightning fast pitcher. Yeah. So that's a great one. Greg Maddux, he's on my mountain of pitchers for sure.
Kirk, let's go ahead. We've given all of our Rosies of records. Let's move on to our TJ Jazzy Jeff number 3 on your Rushmore.
Now I'm going to say this. My top 3, I think, can go almost in alternate order. All 3 of them could have been in George. All 3 of them could have been in any order. And so I just kind of thought, what are the chances of any of these getting beat? I don't think there is a chance. And I also thought, who are my favorite players in this? Maybe, I don't know. But I'm going to go with, first off, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to count down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to the guy that's at top. So number 5, 3,514, 4, 3,630, 3, 3,771, 2, 4,189, number 1 at 4,256 hits, 24 years of playing, Pete Rose. This guy needs to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm not going to get in my soapbox, but it's absolutely ridiculous, especially now that sports betting is allowed and everything else that's going on. I get it. He bet on his team. Give the guy a break. He's almost dead. Let him get in. He's one of the most amazing players. Now, here's the crazy part about it. The only active player going on right now that's even hit 3,000 hits is Albert Pujols. He's retiring in all of about 6 months. That ain't happening. To get to within 6 hits, of tying Pete Rose, okay, you would have to collect 250 hits over 17 straight seasons. Now, here's the best part about that. In the last 81 years, only one guy has hit over 250 hits. Only one guy, and that's Ichiro. And Ichiro was amazing, and he came over from Japan and started his run at season 10 for him. He had 9 seasons in Japan. I don't see this ever getting broken. First off, you mentioned it, Andy. It is a different game nowadays. Nobody goes for that base hit. Singles are not cool. The long ball is what gets you paid. Guys like Joey Gallo walks 100 times a year, strikes out 200 times a year, and hits 40 home runs and makes 100 million. It's insane. Nobody gets base hits anymore. It's a lost art. Nobody's like Tony Gwynn or any of that. And if you are, you're just not that cool. You don't stay long. And they kind of rinse you out with the bathwater. Everything's about the launch angle in the home run. So I don't think this record has a shot to be broken. Not in today's modern day. They would have to deaden the baseball. They'll have to change the rules. Now that they've moved the shift, that might happen a little bit. But I'm watching spring training the other day, and the shift's still going on. It's just different. And I saw like 4 or 5 hits getting taken away. So this is a hit. This is another one I think will never get broken. The king of the base hit, Pete Rose. Man, so that's going to be my TJ, Jazzy Jeff, my number 3, Pete Rose. So, all right, Andy. All right. Your turn. Let's hear the king of obscure.
Well, they're not all obscure.
What is the record that you found on Google, man? Tell me about it.
Okay, so it's gonna be good. This one's not super obscure. It's just kind of funny, I guess, thinking of it this way. But before we started filming, Thomas, we were kind of talking about this one. And for a guy who holds all these records, you mentioned him in your Rosie. Nolan Ryan, I mean, is just one of those guys who's just got so many records, prestigious career, just so many moments in his life that could easily make any kind of Rushmore. But I think one of the most intriguing ones to me is that in all of that success, in all of the accolades and everything that he got, he had 2,795 batters that he walked in his career. And to put that into perspective, at the time that this was written, I think this was the article that I pulled up, which was like last year. So it's pretty up to date. The active leader of the time was CC Sabathia. And you know what he was at? He was at 894. He's almost 2,000 less. Like, it's stupid, right? Like, it's crazy. But you know what it brings my mind? And this is where I'm going to tie in kind of my passion for football to this. We look at guys like Brett Favre. Brett Favre was one of my favorite.
Oh, I know where you're going.
All-time favorite quarterbacks. It's really kind of why I got into football, just the way he played it like he was a kid in the backyard. I just loved it so much. And he's a local guy close down here to where we live. But in all of that success, he like holds the record. I mean, it's like he throws some of these just stupid passes that you're like, and they get picked off. and he holds these records for interceptions too. It's like all of these awesome accolades that he has and passing yards and games. And you talk about Brett Favre with how many games he played, how many starts he had in a row. But there's also that little thing where he threw all these picks too. And so it's like when you look at Nolan Ryan, it's like, man, look at all these stats. Like you mentioned in your Rosie, but along with that, there's almost 2,800 batters were walked. So
I was kind of thinking the same thing. I knew there was a couple really awesome stars, like interceptions. I'm pretty sure, like, I don't know exactly, but I think like Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan has missed the most shots career. Maybe Kareem.
Yeah.
But is it Kobe? He's missed the most shots ever.
Yeah.
And then like in baseball, right? We're talking about Nolan Ryan has the most strikeouts pitching, but Reggie Jackson has the most strikeouts batting, right? Yeah. So like in order to be these guys that have these big career stats, it's usually a star that's also doing the negativity. And honestly, what I've learned from this, I teach this to my kids. Dude, you can't go out and be successful if you don't try. And guys that try and really put it out there on the line find success. Enough success to be Hall of Famers, enough success to get paid, enough success to get fame, and that's a big deal. So yeah, I'm down with that.
Yeah, so that record is fun. It's just kind of one of those interesting kind of side notes to an amazing career that he had. And like I said, you can mention so many records that he holds that could easily make this list, but that was the one that I found the most entertaining and interesting. So that's where we're at, 27, almost 2,800 walks.
Wow. Nolan Ryan has held tons of unbreakable records. He had such a great career, and that's pretty funny that he has the not only the success but also some of those negative. Look, we're gonna jump in. TJ Jazzy Jeff, that's Thomas, man. So Thomas, we're going to you, Thomas. For Thomas, what's your Thomas, man? What's your Thomas? Your number 3 of unbreakable baseball records.
So for me, you could put this as 1 easily. You could easily do this because it's never ever going to be touched again. But I think the other 2 that I have as 1 and 2 as well cannot ever be touched. But it's Cal Ripken Jr.'s most consecutive games played with 2,632. I mean, that's just unbelievable longevity. Just the fact that he never got hurt. I mean, I think the next closest was like 2,100, which he's 500 more than, which is just, I mean, that's 5.
Which was Lou Gehrig, the Iron Horse. The dude was called the Iron Horse because he never got hurt. I mean, and he broke that. He shattered it.
Yeah, absolutely shattered it. And then like 3rd on the list is like 1,300 1,300 games. It's just an absolutely insane record to have. And not even to mention, Cal Ripken was just an absolute beast of a batter too. And to be able to just keep up that longevity to me is just, I mean, it's not touchable. There's no way. No one in the history. Everyone's taking breaks and having off days now. And you got Cal Ripken who's literally playing every day for the rest of his life. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine like I know he's had where he like tweaked a hamstring or he got like, some turf toe or something. And he's like, nah, man, I'm going to be out there. I mean, we got guys,
I got to play. Yeah.
We got guys like LeBron that, broke his eyelash and he's taking a seat, I mean, it's like, what is going on? I mean, I love LeBron, but I mean, these guys today are just soft. They're soft, man. They're soft. But look, dude, that's a great record. That was one of the ones that I kind of adjusted because I kind of knew you were going to go that direction. And I think that is an unbreakable record. I don't see that happening, not in today's sport, in any sport. A longevity record is probably stuck unless the mentality changes, especially like, just the way they rest players for championship runs and all those different things, like playing 162 games straight for whatever it was, 18 years is just never going to happen again. It's just not. So we're halfway there. We're halfway. This is our halfway point. And we're going to jump into Link, man. Abraham Lincoln. He's our number 2. And I'm going to go with what I would consider my second highest unbreakable record. And I'm going to go with Joltin' Joe, man, a Yankee great. This is the one record I didn't actually get to see, but my dad taught me all about the Yankees growing up. There were so many great Yankee records, and to put this one in perspective, Joltin' Joe DiMaggio went 56 games straight with getting a base hit. Now, to put that record in perspective, I stat checked it. I went and found, why is this so hard? So look, let me tell you, DiMaggio did this in 1941, right? So 1941, we're 80 years into this record. First off, okay, so point there. In order to do this, in the streak, in the 56 games, he hit 408. He had 91 hits. The next closest player was Willie Keeler with 45 over those same 2 seasons, right? There's only been 6 ever 40-game hitting streaks, and Pete Rose at 44 is the closest. 44, wow. So 12 games less. There's been several that hit in the 30s, but no player other than Joe DiMaggio, no player has ever hit safely in 55 of 56 games. So all those 40 plus did not go on another streak that would bring them within 56. No active player as of 2019 has had longer streaks that all of their streaks add up to 56. All of them not add up to 56. That's insane to me. 56 straight hits, batting 408. In that same time, I saw where he had like 20 home runs, 7 triples, and all these different singles. His RBIs, I think he had like 91 RBIs in that stretch of 1 month. It was done in 1 month. It was done from May to June, almost 1 month exactly. I don't think this will ever get broken. Again, going back to the hits, going back to what I was talking about, hits are a commodity in today's game. And I don't see it happening. So my number 2, my link is going to be my dude, Marilyn Monroe's boyfriend, right? You got to throw that in there. Joe DiMaggio. We need the Joe DiMaggio song for sure. Yeah. We got to celebrate. All right, man. Andy, man, halfway. What is your link?
So this guy, who's going to be featured in this statistic, was one of the ones when I really kind of first started watching or following baseball, really. This was one of those guys who was on everybody's radar. He was always on Sports Center. It was just a huge, it was great for the sport. But we kind of see some of the repercussions of some of the issues now. And actually my team beat him in their one World Series, and my record is Barry Bonds. But Barry Bonds, what's impressive about him, and we always talk about how amazing of a hitter he was, but do you realize that Barry Bonds was walked in his career a total of 688 times? That's stupid. 688 times they gave him first base, right? They just gave it to him. So I always want to look up, like, what's the next guy, right? What's the closest record to that? And at the time, again, when this article was written last year, the closest active to that was Albert Pujols, who had 296.
So here's the thing. We have to make sure you clarify. This is intentional walks.
Intentional walks, yes.
This is free 4 bases. We're going to put our hand out and say, you get to go to first.
Right.
Now, my favorite part about that is that I've never seen this happen, but to him, they intentionally walked this dude with bases loaded.
So think about this. Put yourself in the mind. Like, how intimidating does somebody have to be for that you're like, I'm going to give him, he's going to at least get first, right? So now, like, my strategy is let's limit him to just getting a single, basically, right? It's crazy. And then think about all the stats, like the home runs and everything that came with that, right? Imagine if they would have just kept throwing to him. Like, what would his other stats have looked like if they wouldn't have walked him almost 700 times intentionally in his career. Can you imagine?
I wonder what his plate appearance per home run is, and we could kind of figure it out. So like if it's like every 6 at bats, he gets 1 more home run. So let's just say if it's every 6 and he hit 750, that puts it, how many home runs did he hit? 752?
Sure.
Something like that?
No, 762.
762, right? 762. So you add maybe like 100 more, 862.
That's insane. It's stupid. And like, so I don't think it'll happen now because of obviously just statistics and like, it's kind of dumb to give somebody a free base, right? But I mean, for him, for this, like you said, walking somebody on bases, like I'm going to give up a run, right? Rather than give up 4 runs, right? Because that's what's going to happen. And he's just one of those intimidating, people in baseball. I just remember watching it and being like, okay, Bonds is up. He just stands there. Like how much of a man do you feel like if you're at bat and they're just walking you? Like you just like, I'm in your head.
Kind of reminds me of kind of like nowadays there's the girl that plays for Oklahoma, and they intentionally walk her like they intentionally walk her like crazy because she just broke the record of collegiate home runs, and she's got so many home runs in softball that she broke the boys' collegiate record of home runs. And look, when they start to walk her, she takes all her stuff off before it's even done and gets ready to run. And they're pitching to her. Yeah, that's kind of what it reminds me. So, yeah.
There you go. Barry Bonds walked almost 700 times intentionally, 688 times over his career.
Nice. All right, Thomas the Train, man. Thomas, man. So who is your link, your number 2?
So it's a guy from obviously none of us have ever seen this guy play because he was playing in 1979, or 1879. I'm sorry. And his name is Will White, and it's the most innings pitched ever in a season with 680 in a single season. The next closest to that is Phil Niekro with 342.
Wow.
That's just absurd. That's over half. I mean, it's just wild. At the time, the distance to the plate was like 45 feet, and now it's like 60 and a half. Yeah, it's 60 and a half. So that is a little bit different. But still, you're throwing 680 innings, and he's probably throwing 100 pitches every game that he's playing. That's just, I mean, I think about my arm and throwing like 50 pitches, and I'm like dying over here, and he's throwing 680. It's just absurd to me. Just absolutely crazy amount of innings for a pitcher to pitch. Just unbelievable.
And then you think about it too now, like now with the pitch counts and everything like that, like they're just breaking that record. Just the nature of the game now, the nature of the game is not going to allow for that record to be broken.
Well, now the game is so bullpen rotation oriented. You have pitchers that are only pitching maybe even half an inning. Like they're pitching 3 outs and then they're out of the game. Like your starting pitcher goes maybe 4 innings. This guy's probably going 8 to 9 innings every single game. I mean, just absolutely crazy to me.
All right, man. That's a great pick. Will White, man, ton of innings pitch. His arm must be hurting after all of that, man. I can't imagine. My arm gets sore when I throw with cannon just for a little bit, So look, we're gonna jump into our George, right? The number 1, our very top of the list, or the biggest of the mountain. I'm gonna pick one that I'm sure is gonna make a lot of people's list. I just think this is just absolutely insane. My number 1. I'm going with career stolen bases, Rickey Henderson. Now, look, here's the deal. He also is the record holder, which I think might be unbreakable as well, for season stolen bases. But Rickey has 1,406 stolen bases, 1,406. Now, to put that in perspective, because we're talking about how hard it is to break this. He has 300 plus stolen bases, 1350 plus stolen bases, and leading the league in stolen bases 12 times. The next closest player, the guy he passed up, was Lou Brock. He's beaten him by 468 stolen bases now. He's at 938. And you have to imagine this. So in order for a player to get to where he's at, he would have to steal 70 bases for 20 plus seasons just to get to 1,400. And between 2000 and 2009, here's the deal. With an average of 64 stolen bases, that the league leader had only 64 stolen bases from those periods. And then if you go to the next decade, the league leader was 57 stolen bases. No player has stolen 70 bases in over 20 years or so. The closest active player is Gordon, and he has 333. That is a record that is not going to be broken. It's a record that's not going to be broken. He's going to be the king of stolen bases forever. Unless Lightning McQueen, the Flash shows up, Quicksilver, I don't know, somebody with astronomical speed and agility. So my George, unbreakable, not going to be touched, is Rickey Henderson, another guy who played on like 700 teams, but he's another Yankee. So anyways.
Wow.
Now, Andy, number one.
Who's
your George?
My George of unbreakable records comes from a guy that they should name a trophy after. Oh, wait, they've done that. So my guy is Cy Young. And again, he's a guy who's got so many different records that we could mention, one of the greats all time. But the one that struck out, I didn't mean that, but one that came to my mind when I was doing my research was this. Cy Young career, how many innings he's pitched in his career. This is stupid. I mean, this is dumb. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. But Cy Young has pitched 7,356 innings. 7,000. Let me say that again. 7,356 innings pitched. Okay. So there was the closest one to him at the time was 6,000, right? Which is still crazy, right? That's insane. 7,356 innings pitched. And let me just give you perspective here. Let me just talk about how it's unbreakable. If a player was to want to break this record, okay, they would have to throw 368 innings a season for 20 years. 368 innings a season for 20 years. And to compare that, this is some of the notes that came with this. Look, Clayton Kershaw, 2015, led all major league pitchers with 232 and 2/3 innings pitched, right? So it won't be broken. I mean, there's no way that can be broken. The active leader at the time that this was written, I think was Sabathia, which was like just under 3,000 innings, like 2988. Like
never gonna happen.
Stupid, like 3,000. So we're talking. Look at this. The active leader at the time that this was written was about 3,000, 4,000 less than Cy Young. If Sabathia doubled his record, if he doubled his record, he's still behind him.
He has to play two whole separate careers.
Right. I mean, it's stupid. 7,300 whatever innings pitched in his career, Cy Young. That's crazy. I mean, insane. Like that number when I read it, I'm like, that's gotta be made up. That's stupid. So Cy Young, career innings pitched, that's a record. That's
all right. All right, man. That is insane. So Thomas, what is your George? Who's your number one?
My number one is also Cy Young, and it's his most career complete games with 749. Now, to put that in perspective, in 2019, there were a total of 45 complete games throughout the MLB. 1 year. So Cy Young has 9 40 complete game seasons. He has 9 of them. And there was out of all of MLB in 2019, there were 45 total complete games. Is
That's
that not
nuts.
absolutely insane? Just absolutely crazy. I mean, it's what we talked about with Will White. You know, it's all bullpen rotation oriented pitching now, and no one's hardly ever throwing complete games unless it's like a chance of a perfect game. They're just not going to do that. And so, I mean, just you're never going to see somebody with that kind of longevity and as a pitcher anymore, because they don't make them like that. Like, he's completely different than anybody that has ever pitched in any type, or anybody that's really ever played the sport. He's just an absolute beast. I mean, he probably has more records than anybody in baseball.
So he also has the record of most wins, which is not shocking. I mean, when you throw that many times, I hope you win. He probably has the most losses as well. I mean, but I think it's like 550 wins or something, 549. I saw it scrolling through. There's so many crazy records. Dude, I'm going to challenge Rushmore community. I'm going to challenge you guys. Just Google Unbreakable records. It's a fun little stroll through the stat books, but there's so many pitching records, hitting records, walking records, stolen bases, longevity records, just career records, yearly records. I mean, one of the ones I was thinking was Ichiro, man, has the career amount of hits in 1 year. The amount of RBIs in a season, I think, is unbreakable. It's like 191. I mean, there's so many records that I was just like, I can't pick one. But so this was a fun little trip, man. So look, man, we've made it. We've built our mountains. Rushmore community, here's your question of the week. First off, tell us what are your top 4 unbreakable records. It's going to be fun. Many of y'all might have to go and do a little research. And what do you think about ours? Our unbreakable records. If you like this, man, make sure you go hit the like, and obviously if you're hanging around this long, you should be subscribing to our content. Help us out. We just hit 100. Thank you
100
to all of our fans. Let's go. We hit 100 subscriptions, and it's been a blast. But now we're going to jump into our very last part of this week, and that is Who's Your George segment. Now we're building our lineup, our super lineup throughout the month here, and we're trying to see if my team will beat Andy's team, and then we're going to see with our guests what they feel about them. And so today it's all about our outfield and who's your George Herman Ruth, better known as the Babe. Great Bambino, the Sultan of SWAT, right? But Babe Ruth probably going down as the GOAT or the George in many people's eyes as baseball. But hey, we're gonna go with our outfield. So I'll start off. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do 3 outfielders. The parameters weren't necessarily right field, center field, and left field, just 3 stud outfielders that you would put in your outfield. Most of them can play multiple positions. I get it. Center field's a little different. And then we're also going to pick with this one, our DH. Now that DH is universal, we need a DH no matter if you play in the American or the NL. And so we're going to pick those 4 positions. Next week, we'll pick our pitching and then something special for week 4. So number 1, I said in the first part of this that I'm going to pick all guys that I pretty much have watched except for one. And my number 1 guy that I have to pick is probably my dad's favorite player. I met this guy, got his autograph at a baseball card show. I'm going to go with lucky number 7, the Mickey Mantle. I would probably challenge the GOAT with the Babe with Mickey, especially if he would have stayed healthy. So Mickey Mantle is probably my second favorite player of all time, the one player I never got to watch. And then my other two are 2 guys that I watched that were probably the best outfielders I had ever laid my eyes on. And we spoke about one of them already, the home run king. I don't care if you like him and how polarizing he is by far the best player I have ever watched, and that is Barry Bonds. And then my last guy, probably my most favorite outfielder that never played for the Yankees, my favorite player that never played for the Yankees, actually these next two. This rounds out my top three. I mentioned Don Mattingly last week. Here's my top three favorite players. I'm going to go, reason why I wear my hat backwards, man. And I was just wearing his shoes yesterday. Ken Griffey Jr. That's going to be my outfielders. And I'm going to land with my DH. My number 3 on the mountain and I mentioned him last week because of the White Sox, is I would say the best 2 DHs are not going to go on my mountain. One, because I wasn't a Mariners fan, if you figure out who that guy is, and I'm definitely not a Red Sox fan. Those are the top 2 in my opinion. But number 3 coming in will be Big Hurt Frank Thomas. Man, so that's going to be my list. Ken Griffey, Barry Bonds, Mickey Mantle, Frank Thomas. Andy, who is your George of outfielders?
Okay, here we go. So building my team here again. I think our infield is pretty even, right? Where we went with that. It could go either way. So my outfield, my 3 in the outfield. I got a couple Crushmores with you. We haven't had a Crushmore in records, but we're going to save our Crushmores for this. And I'm going to start with the guy Barry Bonds. I mean, there's no way you can't.
Rushmore!
Especially if I'm getting his hitting too, or we're just talking about fielding. I don't know what we're doing, but yeah, Barry Bonds is going to make my outfield. Another Rushmore is Ken Griffey Jr. There's no doubt he's got to be
the kid, there. Man.
He's got to be up there, right? So he's in my outfield as well. And then my third one is not a Rushmore, and I only put this guy in there because it's my team. I gotta have an angel in there. Oh, and I'm gonna go currently playing Mike Trout.
Mike Trout
rounds
good
up
pick.
my outfield. I love Mike Trout, man. That dude's so awesome. And then we're
considered the goat of our time. This is who all the young kids are gonna call the goat, right there.
He's fantastic, right? Yeah. And side note, if my Angels can't do anything with Ohtani and Mike Trout on the team, I don't know what to do. But anyway, but let's go ahead. Let's go to DH.
DH, man.
Let's go to DH. And again, I'm not really a big follower of this, but when I Googled it and I typed in best DHs of all time, the first guy who pops up, he's one of my favorite players ever. And I know you exactly know where I'm going, Kirk.
Keenan.
Big Papi!
Yeah, Big Papi. Hey, look, one thing I wanted to bring up real quick. We didn't mention it last one when you brought up Papi. Papi and A-Rod on the MLB shows during the playoffs and all that. It is some of the best baseball television out there.
Great.
And also Big Hurt. So you got the big 3 right there. A-Rod, Big Hurt, and Papi. It's great, man.
Yes, sir.
He's probably the one Red Sox that I can tolerate. So
well, there you go. It's got to count for something. So that's my outfield
and my DH. All right. Where are you going, Thomas? Who are your top 4? Your outfielders and your DH?
So my first outfielder I'm going to pick, and I am 100% biased on this, is Andruw Jones.
Should be in the Hall of Fame.
He's brave. I mean, he should absolutely.
And his son is tearing the cover off the ball around the corner.
His son is crazy. My next guy, you guys didn't say this, but I think he deserves a mention, is Ichiro Suzuki. Ichiro was one of my favorite players to watch.
That's who Mantle knocked off. That's who Mantle knocked off. That was my guy right there.
Man, Ichiro was so good. My third, it's hard for me to pick between these two. And I think I'm going to end up going with Ken Griffey, but Vladimir Guerrero is also up there, senior, not junior. But I think I'm going to go with Ken Griffey. I mean, the swag, the swing, just an absolute beast.
The most beautiful swing ever.
Yes. And in my DH, I have the same DH as you, Frank Thomas. You got
Crushmores all around. So Crushmore for Ken, Crushmore for Big Hurt. Let's go.
You get a Crushmore. You get a Crushmore. You get a Crushmore.
Yeah.
All right, so look, we rounded out the outfield. That sounds like freaking some boss outfield. Rushmore community, let us know if you have some Crushmores and what you think about our outfielders. Give us your outfielders. It's been a great episode, Andy. A great episode, Thomas. Thomas, thanks you for coming on. We want to have you back on another time. Yeah. Maybe when we're talking about maybe the Broncos and the Chiefs, because it's going to be good this year, man. But hey,
yes,
we totally appreciate the love, man. And we can't wait to see you, Rushmore community, and in the comments. So, Andy, what do you have to tell our viewers?
Remember this always, guys. This is the Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top 4 and nothing more.